Hi, welcome back to Dane Comics. And on today's episode, I want to talk about why we love YouTube and things we might not realize about YouTube and this new media of YouTube and how it might be promoting the comic book community to be more creative than it's ever been. That's the premise, right? So something that YouTube's always fascinated me, the medium, and I know I'm consuming more YouTube than anything, right? So I started thinking about, like, why is that? What's going on? What is it about YouTube that makes it so endearing? Okay, so I study writing, story. I read novels, short stories, movies, TV, all that shit, right? But the thing about writing is they'll tell you in every writing course, every writing school, every writing class is conflict, unique conflict. Aaron Sorkin says, like, everything has conflict. Every scene has to have conflict, right? And without conflict, they'll tell you there is no story. Without conflict, there is nothing. It's not even entertaining, they'll tell you, right? And for the most part, that is totally true with narrative. That's very true with narrative, right? And most of media that's existed exists on these terms, right? Novels, stories, narratives. And it has been like the rule, the hard and fast rule of like getting attention, you need conflict. So what is it about YouTube, right? There is no conflict. I mean, for the most part, you have little flame wars or whatever, but YouTube it's a new kind of medium, and it's about people loving things. So every episode is like, hi, welcome back. I love this. Next episode, hi, welcome back. I love this, right? Every episode, I love this, I love that. You just talk about things you love. There is no conflict, and it's just happening in an endless loop, and we consume it endlessly. And their love, we feel vicariously by watching it, right? And that's what is happening. It's just, you're just seeing millions of people loving things, and you're watching it hardcore. There's something about it. It's a little like cooking shows, in that way, where it's like kind of conflict free, but it's changing the way we think, I believe, right? So the old media is all about conflict, and conflict really must exist in a zero-sum world where there is a finite amount of resources, and we'll have to like kill each other to compete and all that, right? And honestly, I believe as a result of us consuming so much media and conflict-based media, we see the world in those terms all the time. And I would argue that's not necessarily the way of the world. Like, there's other ways to see the world. And with YouTube and new media, because it's just about loving and infinite love, and how infinite love is abundant, and even like the A-OK boxes, I don't know who started that, but that's, like, to me, kind of revolutionary, right? And it's about giving and loving, and it's infinite instead of finite like conflict is. And I believe it's kind of reprogramming a lot of the way people think about each other, our relationships, our connection to the world, where it's, instead of a finite place where you're fighting for everything, maybe it's filled with infinite love, where there is actually abundance. That abundance exists. I mean, look, in theory, right, if we all became vegan overnight, and I'm not vegan, right, but if we all became vegan overnight, because it takes 10 times the plant material to make 1 part meat, right? Meat consumption contributes, it's like the second biggest contributor to global greenhouse gases, right? So destroying the planet, we're using 10 times more food to make that food. And if we all became vegan, there's like statistics that we would end starvation. World starvation would be ended really fast if we all decided at once to do this, right? But now it's kind of possible because there is a world consciousness because of the internet, and we're all tapped into it. So now an idea can spread this way, unlike ever before. Like, I don't think a lot of people realize the gravity of how different our reality is because of the internet, because we have access to a world consciousness. So, like, if I really want to go on the moon, right, you can do it now because you have access to world consciousness. So, like, say I really want to go to the moon, but I can't become an astronaut because I don't have a degree in physics and all that. But if I campaigned all the time about being the person that wants to go on the moon first, the first non-astronaut to go on the moon, if I just campaigned all day long, 24/7 for the next 5-10 years, right? And then finally, they let civilians go on a SpaceX mission to the moon. There is a good chance that I would be on that first mission or on the second mission. But, you know, if you're so famous for being the one that wants to go on the moon, you might go on the moon because the whole world is aware of it because you're tapped into the world consciousness. And if you want, you can actually go to the moon. A lot is more possible that we've realized because of the internet, and I think we're underestimating what that means, right? Also, with creativity, right? So, I don't know if you know about this, but there's something called the Shannon number in chess. And the Shannon number in chess is the exact possible number of chess games that can exist, right? And there's a finite number, and it's 10 to the power of 120, okay? But the current estimate of every particle in the universe right now, in the known universe, is 10 to the power of 78. Okay, so the game of chess with this limited space, these limited pieces, creates more possible combinations of play than the current estimate of everything that exists in the known universe. It's like, it doesn't sound right, but it is. Look it up, Google it. I might have gotten the particle number wrong, but the number of chess games vastly outnumbers the number of particles in the universe. This is a fact. Google it, Shannon number, right? So what does this mean? To create the infinite, right? You have a limited space with limited pieces. So, you know, apply this to all art, all creativity, right? So the board is your medium. So if it's a play, that's your board. If it's a script, a comic, you know, a painting, whatever, right? A dance, I don't know. That's your board, okay? Then your pieces are your themes, your characters, your ideas. And the key to getting the infinite is to play, right? So a lot of artists initially, they want to know everything, right? And they don't leave enough room for themselves to play, right? Because no one plays chess knowing every single move, right? Otherwise, that's not really playing chess. But when you play chess with the goal of winning and losing, you know, and just playing through, that's when the infinite starts to come out of it, right? So the key to infinite creativity is to play, not know and master, but play, and play to lose too, because that's when you get even more possibilities. Like a lot of times when you're brainstorming, you have a bad idea, but the bad idea is the seed to something excellent. So, and the key to allowing that room is to play and not try to know, right? How this has helped the comic book industry is, I think, the internet has allowed a sort of echo chamber where content is king. So honestly, like a lot of these great comics that are coming out nowadays, I would see titles like this come out in the 90s, and then they will come and go and disappear because we didn't have a way to communicate like we do today. We didn't have a way to like talk as a community and talk about what we love like we do today. So back then, you just got the solicits, you were just marketed to, and you just assumed, okay, well, Marvel, DC, okay, that's what's going, go for that. Indies, you just didn't know if they're going to stick around, so you didn't know whether to get them or not, and you didn't know if they were good or not because they had bad marketing. But now we're the ones marketing what we love. So when a comic is great, we know it and we share it, and then sales rise and it sustains a good story. And this didn't happen before, right? And also because comic books, they're so passion fueled, like no one goes into comics trying to be a millionaire. Like you can get into film hoping to be a millionaire. You can get into a lot of other forms of media hoping to one day, you know, land that $1 million deal, right? But you never heard about a $1 million comic book deal. It doesn't really happen, right? Comics are way more about the passion. And because the profit motive is so much less there than other media, it's creating the room to play. That's the key. That's why comics are so creative, because we have reduced the profit motive in our industry because no one, I mean, you know, it's not as big as it could be. And we're in this like perfect moment where there's just enough money, just enough viewers, and then because the profit motive is so low, there's just enough room to play. And not, because with film, they're so focused on the profits that they get a little tunnel vision about how to maximize profit, and then the stories get stale, boring, they lose the rawness in life. And because comics don't have that as much, everything's raw almost. It's like everything is raw except from the big two, right? And because of the internet and our love of the medium, we're helping create that play. We're like cheering on these creators to just push the best kind of content, not for money, but for love. And, you know, I mean, it is of course conflict-based, most of the comics, right? But I think we are, as a community, creating the space for play, which is initiating this golden age, a new golden age in comics where good story rises above the rest. And that's a beautiful thing in any medium, but it's happening especially in comics right now. So I'm super excited for times ahead. If we reach a tipping point and like, you know, I don't know, I have no idea, but right now it's great. And YouTube is great. And I think, yeah, that's something to consider. We're tapped into a world consciousness. There's ways to tap into infinite creativity. And we're using a new medium of love that is maybe rewiring our software to not be so conflict-based, which is, you know, it's tiresome and we don't need it. I have seen miracles happen from living in a world full of infinite love compared to not. And I'm not even talking in a woo spiritual way. I mean, yeah, sure, I could, but I'm talking about in very pragmatic ways. I've seen it happen. And I could talk about that, I don't know, maybe in another video. It's sort of like what my other channels, but anyway, that's it. I don't want to go too long on this, but if you like this video, like, subscribe, and in the comments, let's just talk about this. Tell me something that the internet inspired you to do that you probably would have never done if you didn't have the internet. So for me, with early internet, when I was a teenager, early teen, I was growing mushrooms and I used the internet to do it. And yeah, it would never happen without the internet. And that changed my life in ways. Something like that, I don't know, right? Or you learn how to scuba dive. I've learned how to cook through the internet. I learned how to write films through the internet. I learned how to make comics through the internet. So much. I'm an autodidact, right? I'm a self-learner. I don't like school. But I'm sure a lot of you have the same kind of story. So how has the internet changed your life? That's what I want to know. Anyway, that's it for this episode, but happy collecting, y'all.